Okay, good morning everybody. We'll make a start. Apologies for lack of parking. So, welcome to today, our event for Safe Working Month. So, my name is Martin Campbell. I'm a relatively new Executive Director of Safe Working SA. I think this is week 8 for me. So it's a pleasure to be invited here to speak today. So I'm going to do the Master of Ceremonies for handover. So I'll just run through a few of the housekeeping rules, if that's okay. So firstly, I just want to acknowledge the traditional lands that we're on today, the Common people, and recognising their spiritual relationship with the land. And invite you to follow us on social media. We've got a big social media presence this year. So please click onto Facebook and our Instagram page, and you'll see these videos on YouTube. So if you can shy, that's the side of the room to stay. Okay, in the case of an emergency, we'll head straight down the stairs out to the foyer and out the front door, or follow us. Our staff, the Safe Work team, will direct you. Please no smoking. Do people still smoke? So, but if you have got the urge, then please go outside. And then let me introduce you to our two speakers. So we have Jane Wondersits and Stephanie New to talk to us this morning. So Jane is the founder of Wonder Training and a qualified positive psychology practitioner. She spent 20 years working as an educator and a business leader, which has taken her around the globe to the UK, Holland, and Ireland. And she's got a huge or extensive international learning development experience. And Stephanie's one of Australia's most experienced accredited coaches in the field of positive psychology, specialising in the well-being of people, teams, and believes that happiness is your right, achieving it is your responsibility. So please welcome Stephanie and Jane, and I'll hand it over to
you. It's attached, so I don't have to stay where I am. I like to be a bit of a mover and shaker, but I'm happy to stay put for today. Look, I'm really excited to be here today. Mindfulness is certainly for probably everyone in the room has heard of mindfulness, particularly in the last 5 to 10 years. Oh, thank you, that's better. Particularly in the last 5 to 10 years, it's really sort of coming into our education systems. Probably some of you may have experienced it in the workplace, but certainly in the media and in research it's come through more strongly. But I guess in the Western culture, it has been part of our culture for probably the last 40 years where it started to really take some traction. Interesting. I guess we'll whiz through those. There's no music. So today I have for you Mindfulness for Clarity and Focus, which is part of our more extended program, which is a 3.5-day workshop for the workplace. I think with mindfulness, if you look at the history where it started to really evolve into a safe workspace, it has started probably in the military and looking at supporting those that have had some trauma, and that's where it started to get some traction. But in the education space, I know that my children are 10 and 11 and they habitually have mindfulness within their classrooms now. So I think for the next generations coming through, it would be hard not to be part of the mindfulness movement. I want you to think for a moment, when was the last time that you actually had 10 minutes where you did nothing? Where you weren't texting, you weren't listening to something, you weren't watching something, you weren't waiting and lost in your thoughts, but you really did nothing. How hard is that? I know for me, I still have to put mindfulness as practice and make sure it's in part of a ritual. So we have this wonderful piece of equipment which we all have, and it is certainly something that is our most prized resource as a human species. And I think for all of us to be able to look after and care for our brains and our minds sometimes gets put to the side because life today is quite busy. It can be really, we can be lost in what's happening, what's coming our way, what's been our way, and to be that fully present and to care for our brain is something that sometimes gets lost in the process. Yeah, if you think about the power of our brain, should we be caring for it more? Probably yes. And I think going into the future, I think it will be a part of every education system and it will be a part of every workplace. The research that's coming through is so significant in the benefits that we have. Today in our workshop, I have the gorgeous Stephanie Noon, who is my partner in London Training, who is the core facilitator for mindfulness for focus and clarity. We also have a schools facilitator who does mindfulness and yoga, more so in the school space. I'm Jane Wondersits, thank you for that lovely little introduction. I think the joy of when you actually go out in a consulting field, you get to do all the things that you enjoy most, and I really enjoy the research. So I guess for me, following the research that's coming through in mindfulness has been very, very exciting. So today primarily is about you, and you don't often get that window of space where you can actually think about how you're travelling and if you can make some small shifts. So we know that small shifts that we make sometimes can take us onto a completely different path and have a really significant impact. Mindfulness, if you're not practicing it already, is definitely one of those small shifts that can have a significant impact. So take the time wisely. We are going to go through some of the research just to share with you what's been happening in the space, but we'll also be doing some mindful meditation in practice, which Jeff will talk you through, and looking at how you can actually bring it into your day-to-day. Rather than, where are the places and spaces that you can actually put some mindfulness into your everyday and also bringing it into your workplace. This is actually a part of our wellbeing program, and I have to say whenever we run the mindfulness program, I've never ever had a workshop before where people often say it should be mandatory, everybody should do this, and that's the most common feedback that actually comes through when we look at mindfulness, that the weight of it, when you put it into a general organisation and workplace, people see the power in it. So I want to have to, just with the person next to you, just to get some thoughts. What sort of, if you haven't got, you might need to talk across the chairs if you can, but what are the things that spring to mind when you think about mindfulness? Just have a quick little letter. What do you think? We might need to go across the chairs if you can. Find someone
being present.
Being present, absolutely, yes.
Tell the story.
Tell the story.
Tell the story. So his wife teaches it. And so at dinner, he says, take a mouthful and then think about what you're eating. Think about food, what does it taste like?
Beautiful.
And then do you need any more? That's a good story.
Thank you for sharing that story. What else did we come up with? They're all too shy to share their stories.
It is about being present, but recognising the moment and not doing one thing at a time and not thinking about, what you've got to do after this. So if you're, getting breakfast or getting ready in the morning, you're not thinking about, the next, the first meeting that you've got on the day or who you've got to talk to, or but just focusing on the here and the now.
Yes. And do you know what, we have both there. I have to say, I'm going to share a story from this morning that I actually made my daughter's lovely wrap with grated cheese and made this beautiful wrap, and then I put it on a plate. I brought her in. Of course, already delivered it close to her lunch that I was meant to be putting in the plate wrap. So we all have that moment, and I just thought, yes, well done, Jane, you're going to speak about mindfulness. So we all have those moments, and whenever I have one of those moments, I thought, I need to be mindful of that. I just sort of make that note, but we all have those moments. So I think, and so I guess today is really about to think about what are those moments for you, and what are the moments that you need to probably immerse yourself more in to be fully present. So I think the joy of these sessions is just having the opportunity to be in this space. So one simple definition, which I quite like, is paying attention on purpose, in the present moment and in a non-judgmental and non-judgmentally to the unfolding experience moment to moment. So it's the ability to be able to observe that moment without passing judgment and without just being fully present. In other words, mindfulness means focusing on what's happening right here and right now. What's happening in this very moment. What are the experiences? What am I feeling in my body? What's my thoughts? Where am I feeling any emotion? And just being fully immersed and present, rather than replaying things that have happened in the past or worrying about what's going to happen in the future. Ancient origins in Buddhism, also Hinduism, that they say also across most of Christianity, Judaism. So it has a very rich cultural piece within many cultures that goes through over thousands and thousands of years. The most dramatic increase occurs, and this is one that I enjoy probably out of the research that I think is really quite fascinating, is in our creative thinking. Where they look at this, that it actually has a rise in IQ for those that practice mindfulness. And that when they look at our brain and our thinking, there's actually a couple of modes of thought. One is the crystallised thinking, which is that we can learn things and we can build on our knowledge and we can sort of grow in this sense. If you think about in the exam space and learning through school, we can continually sort of grow our IQ by learning and building on our knowledge. That's one path. The other path is more of the fluid level of IQ, which previously, considering it's called fluid, they actually have had the foundations have been that it is probably more of a fixed area of IQ. And that area is more so in your creative thinking, your ability to solve problems. Probably the biggest thing I think in mindfulness, particularly in its capacity in the workplace, where these days change is everywhere, it's a shifting work environment. One of the biggest skills you want within your workplace is people to be problem solvers, to be able to think creatively, to be able to innovate, all of those things. And that's something with mindfulness that has shown the biggest increase in IQ is actually in that capacity. And that has previously thought to be fixed. But we know now that our brain is quite pliable and we can actually channel new pathways. So that's some quite exciting research that has been coming through in the creative thinking. Also makes you more resilient in being able to learn from in your connection points between the brain. But probably some of you may, we've got sort of like an emotional centre, then we've got a frontal part of our brain, which is executive functioning. And this area of our brain is where we hypothesise, we think things through, we tend to have one of the only species that has this higher level of thinking. The connected piece between our emotional centre and where we start to think things through has a much better connection. So we actually use more of our brain when we're in that mindful space. They looked at placing important role in self-regulation and learning from the past. So our ability to use our brain more effectively is probably one of the biggest wins or the biggest blessings with practicing mindfulness. So we actually use our brain more efficiently and more effectively, but in self-regulation. Some other studies that come through, and this is one I think in some of my workshops we actually talk about mindful manners of using mobile phones. But I want you to think for a moment in how often you do just go to your phone or check your phone, and certainly the statistics for youth is just quite incredible on the number of times that we actually continually check our phone, about 144 times in a short space of time. It's quite a prolific amount when we look at that. But yet in some of the studies in mindfulness and looking at how we use our phones, it actually comes into that if they have two people that are strangers, if one has the phone on the table, the impression that they get is more negative of a person who has a phone on the table, not even touching it, than what it is if it's actually away from us. So there's mindful manners that we can actually use it in our habitual day-to-day workload on how we use our phones. But it's trying to actually have a negative effect on our emotions, increase stress levels. So just being mindful in different ways can actually have a flow-on effect that is significant as well in the workplace. Does this ever happen to you? And I'm sure that we've all been there where you just sort of drift off. I'll be looking for you. We spend about 46.9% of our time lost in our own thoughts. So we spend quite a bit of our time there. It's incredible when you think about the statistics of it. Some of it can be really healthy, like when you're trying to come up with an idea and you sort of go, and you sift through and you come up with, and you start to put it all together. You know, our brains are incredible in their power to create thought and to think things through and to come up with these wonderful innovations. So that's a wonderful productive part of it. If you want to strategize and plan, that's where we use our thoughts really, really wisely and filter through those connections. But there's also the non-deliberate mind wandering that does happen. And they say that people report being quite unhappy when they sort of monitor people when you sort of go off on your thoughts and you just drift. That it's not actually a happy place if they look at measuring emotions. That people that tend to go to that space and just drift more regularly, it isn't actually a good place for us just to be drifting during mind wandering. And it can be associated with depression. So being fully present actually is a much more positive experience. Interestingly, I did work with Body Shop in Learning and Development for many years, and we used to immerse ourselves in a learning and development place. And what we used to do is always try and stretch our staff. We always used to say learning is a value to everyone. And so we actually had one day where we went down and we went surfing, and I thought, oh Lordy, do we have to go surfing? Or sharks? All of these things that I sort of went through. But probably for me, they say that when you're completely immersed in the present moment, you get this experience of flow, where you have this high level of emotions, and although you're not really feeling emotion, you're just immersed in that very present moment. So there I was, we did the training, and of course, being slightly competitive in some aspects, I thought, I'm going to do this. There was all these young girls, I thought, no, I'm going to stand up on this board, completely immersed in emotion, and I was like a guinea pig, you know, they get on those hamster going, and I could stand, it was just this thing. And I got so much sort of, it didn't feel joy at the time, but the buoyancy I had for the next 2 weeks after that was incredible. And that's what happens sometimes when we're completely immersed in emotion and we're slightly challenged. You hit this place of flow. And being able to keep ourselves in the present moment more often, we're more likely to have those sorts of experiences. And the buoyancy that brings in how we travel is really quite significant. Would have been much more, the buoyancy I got from that was much more than going out and buying a new pair of shoes. That's saying something, to do lunch shoes. So the brain is an interesting thing. It holds vast stores of information about your own and other people's histories. You know, they think about how much is wrapped up in this of our own, but everyone else's. We puzzle it all together. It's like this amazing network that we actually have. But when the default network is active and we have this, what habitually comes in is this default network, you're thinking about your history and future. So it's not really in the present moment. Our default thinking is more so past, future. It's about this sort of narrative story that we put together. All the people you know, including yourself, how it all, we piece our sort of lives together up in this space. This is called the default network, or sometimes you may have heard it called the narrative circuitry, where our stories and where we sort of piece what's happening in our life from our viewpoint, where we sit, what do we see. But do you ever feel that you're in that space too much? That you are And I know I certainly do get there. Mindfulness for me is, sometimes you teach what you need to learn, and I think mindfulness for me certainly fits in that space because I'm very high energy, I'm very driven, I love my work, and I've got 2 children, all of those things, running a business. So I have come to mindfulness through the practice of actually needing it. And I think that sometimes when people tend to hit some things that they really enjoy in life, we can feel frazzled that there's just too much going on, and you're not actually being present in what you're doing. It may be this, with 50,000 things, and I know this morning when I left home and I thought, okay, I've got this, tomorrow I fly to Sydney, I've got Scarlett's got acting tonight, Molly's got guys, I've got this, and there's just like, all of this stuff that we have held up here. So mindfulness sometimes is something we have to consciously do, because it can get overwhelming. This is not you eating your mindful, I say. Be mindful. But how often do you actually have lunch for the sake of it's mealtime, eat it? I know that I say the same thing to my other half. On the fact he vacuums his food sometimes, and I just think, you know what? It took me ages to do that. It's gone. You can touch, you can taste. All of those things. And driving is also one of those spaces that we could probably, for some people could be more mindful. Does anyone drift when they drive? Yes. It is one of those that is one of the higher up on the list where we can drift. I remember with young children driving to work, and I had my daughter in the back who I should have dropped at childcare on the way, and she's thinking, where are we going? Maybe I hadn't been there. There we go. So we do get this autopilot that happens for all of us. And today I want you to think about where does it happen for you? How often does it happen? And what are those occasions? Because they're ones where you can start to bring in those mindful moments. You don't want to limit yourself to only experiencing the world through this circuitry that we actually have, because it's easier to go there sometimes. It's our default. It's what happens. So in that busy place when there's a lot going on, we can spend way too much time within that network. The other network is the direct experience network, and you know what, we've all been there, where you are actually really, you might be sitting somewhere and you just think, oh, you can feel the sun, you can feel how it feels on your body. Just experience what that's like to be fully present at that moment, and that's a very different level of experience. And certainly if I go back to that surfing story, I haven't had the need to do surfing again, but I just remember feeling so alive and so that you could feel every sensation that was happening. And really we can carry that into any moment in our lives where we really feel that sensation. The direct experience network has several different brain regions which become more active. And I think that's part of it, that you actually use more of your brain with practicing of mindfulness. You can get more efficient and more effective in using your brain. My daughter actually this year has been completing a program which is the Arrowsmith program, and for some of you may or may not have heard of that. And what it is, it's a brain training program for children with learning disabilities. And so she habitually does these activities through part of her schooling, which are like brain training. And over a period of time, what happens is it fires up areas of the brain that haven't been used before. If we think about our circuitry, it's a little bit like a roadmap, and we have shortcuts and we have paths that we tend to use. So in opening up those passages, you actually tend to have new pathways once they're open and firing. And that's what they find with mindfulness. Once you start to practice it, it does actually last for longer. That becomes the journey and the pathway that we actually take in using our brain more efficiently. But certainly self-regulation is one that increases. So that can come through in many ways. We talk mindful eating, mindful thought, mindful compassion, mindful driving. So there's many ways where it can pepper throughout each of your life. The practice of mindfulness helps us to connect to that present moment, and I think what we're going to do now is have a short mindful experience and to get some real experience of it. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So excited to have any opportunity to share this great work. Excuse me. So I've been a life coach, wellbeing coach for the last 10 years, and I thought I'd share with you when I talk to my clients about mindfulness is one of the first things that I'll ever bring up
because of the huge impact it'll have on the work that we'll do together in coaching sessions and their ability to understand what are their thoughts and behaviours that are holding them back. So we talk about mindfulness, and these are the objections that I would most commonly hear that I thought I'd share with you, is that they go, oh, mindfulness is really difficult. Mind you, most of them haven't tried it. That's just a perception. Because I think we tend to perhaps have this image, like the one that Jane showed earlier, of these Buddhist monks sitting on wooden floors in the lotus position humming and sitting there for hour upon hour. And it just isn't that at all. The other reason why we think it's difficult is because our brains are so judgmental. We're constantly assessing, have we done this well, is it right, is it wrong? I can't tell you how many of my clients say, oh, I suck at mindfulness. The thing is about mindfulness that I'd encourage you to look at, if you tend to have that lens of this is a bit difficult, is that just having a go is better than not having a go at all. And it really helps to start slowly, so don't look to sit for an hour in a first meditation. What I normally recommend to my clients is sit for 1 minute the first time. Just ease yourself into it. This is a skill, not at all dissimilar to when you learn how to drive a car or when you learn how to ride a bike. It's a skill that we'll learn, so you'll get better and better at it. But please try not to judge yourself. It's not good or bad, it's great that you had a go. And if you sat for 2 minutes and 1 minute 58 of that you were off thinking, that's okay. 2 seconds of it you were mindful. And next time will probably be 4 seconds, and the next time might be 10 seconds. So it's not actually as difficult as you would think, particularly if you start small, reduce your expectations, and try not to judge. Hopefully help to dispel that myth. The other thing I get told a lot is, yeah, but you have to free your mind of all thoughts. And that's really hard. Yeah, it is. Because our minds are thinking machines. We're not actually made to not think at all. It's part of a mindfulness meditation practice is that you will just sit in how we normally sit. We're not in a lotus position, not doing anything. We're just sitting in a chair usually, hands on our lap, sitting normally and just breathing normally. We're not altering our breath, but we have a single focus on our breath. We're going to practice one in a minute, but we just have a single focus on our breath. So while you're sitting focusing on your breath, you will drift off into thought. That's okay. Just when you notice that you're off in thought, you go, oh, look at me, I'm not looking at my breath anymore, I'll come back to my breath. And then a few minutes later, might even be a few seconds later, you'll drift off into another thought. When you notice that, you just go, oh, look, I'm not looking at my breath, and you come back to your breath. Now, as you practice that, the gaps between the thought and the breath get bigger. In other words, you get longer space just sitting with your breath and less time drifting off. But try not to think of it that you can't have any thoughts. Because what we're doing during a mindfulness practice, and this is where the real strength comes in the long term, is that you're accidentally learning to be an observer of your thoughts. So what happens is, because during a mindfulness practice you notice the thought come back to your breath, notice the thought come back to your breath, you're building this skill that during the day, when you're in the workplace, when you're busy, when things are up, instead of just having a thought and flowing with it, which is what we do, right? How quickly do our thoughts magnify, and because of the negativity bias in our brain, we most often magnify thinking the worst, not better. So do something like, I'll walk into a room, there might be 2 people talking in the lunchroom, I walk in, they look up at me, look away and keep on talking, and I might think to myself, have I done something wrong? Don't they like me? Because my negativity biased brain is likely to lead to that. And then if I'm not aware of that thought, then it kind of goes really quickly to, I wonder if the whole workplace doesn't like me. In fact, why do I even work here? I don't even know what I'm doing in life. Have I got any friends? We've gone from this incident where someone just looked and suddenly my life's nearly over. We do that really quickly in our brain. But by doing mindfulness meditation, we build this skill to notice that first thought. Oh, maybe they don't like me. And then you can observe that and go, is there any evidence of that? maybe they're in a really deep conversation and it's just not convenient right now to have me join in on that. You know what I mean? So we build this skill. So you don't have to be completely free of thoughts. So what we're going to do now is just hands up, has anyone done a mindfulness of the breath meditation before? Oh, right, you guys are experienced at this. So okay, so what I invite you to do then, we're going to practice one for those that haven't done one. What I invite you to do is just get yourself into that comfortable position. So usually I suggest feet uncrossed, both feet on the floor, hands on your lap. Your back should be relatively upright, not too slumped, but comfortably upright. Just imagine you had sort of a string just pulling on the top of your head, so you're just sort of just keeping you up there. I invite you to shut your eyes during this practice. If you don't feel comfortable shutting your eyes, just try and hold a steady gaze on the floor. So just get yourself comfortable now, closing your eyes or gazing at the floor, and just slowly now bring your attention to your breath. Don't change anything about your breath. Don't make your breath any deeper or any slower. Just simply observe your breath. While you're focusing on your breath, you might want to pay attention to the experience of your lungs filling and emptying. Maybe your belly is rising and falling, or your chest is rising and falling. Feel the air just moving in and out of your nostrils. If your mind wanders to something else, don't worry. That's just part of the process. Just notice that you've wandered and return back to focusing on your breath. Pure awareness of your breath. If it helps you stay focused, you may try to breathe to a count up to 10. 1 as you breathe in, 2 as you breathe out, 3 as you breathe in, and so on up to 10, and then repeat again. Pure awareness of your breath. And now I just invite you to slowly bring your awareness back into the room that we're in. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. How does that feel? Does anyone want to share any reflections around that? Thank you.
I did a little visual, like an anatomical thing, and I was watching my lungs expand, and then I was watching like dragon's breath coming out of my nose, lungs expanding, dragon breath, lungs expanding, dragon breath.
And you found that helpful to keep you focused? Yeah, lovely.
So that I had a visual for it because there's noise and what have you.
And that can be really helpful. There's certainly other meditations where you're invited to picture the colour of a ball entering in your breath, and then you see that moving through your body and so on. We often do that with a body scan that we'll do later on today too. Any other experiences? Thank you.
I was just going to say, I was sitting like I was sitting there and like breathing in, breathing out, like just like getting into it, and I was like, oh, this is really good. I think we should do this. And then I went back to the breath, and it was just
Yeah, thank you. Yes, did anyone find it challenging to stay with your breath? Yeah, you nods. And it is. So usually when you're starting out, what I suggest to my clients is there's some fantastic apps, a number of free ones. There's a really technical one called Smiling Mind, which is an Australian one. I kind of like personally, I struggle with the American voices a little bit, so I like the Australian one. But Smiling Mind is free. The other thing I like about Smiling Mind is that it has what's called bite-sized meditation. So they've got 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, so there's good starting ones. But the beauty of following an app is that it does remind you, it'll say every now and then, have your thoughts drifted, and you go, oh yes, I have, that's my breath. So it'll just help you stay focused on your breath. Any questions about that? Good, you guys are good. This is going to be good. So the other thing that my clients tell me a lot, but it takes years before I'm going to get any benefit from this. Like, it's so long away. It's a bit like trying to get fit, right? And it's hard in the beginning and you can't even see that place where you're going to be fit. In actual fact, that's just not true at all. What I love about mindfulness meditation is that right from the first one, right from this moment, from even that, I don't know how long that was, 2 or 3 minute meditation you just did, what we're already doing is calming down the emotional center, or what's called the amygdala, the fight and flight response in our brain, is immediately being toned back down, our stress response. So we have this immediate effect of feeling less stressed. Then we also do have that longer term effect of becoming better observers of our thoughts, not being our thoughts, but creating a little gap between our thoughts and our responses. That does take a little bit longer. That part comes with greater experience as we grow the new neural pathways in our brain as we do this. So we do get longer term benefits, but we also get those immediate benefits of feeling calmer and having greater access to lateral thought and creative thinking by doing that immediately. So definitely some immediate benefits, and you feel it if you do it. The clicker stopped working. So just as an example, interestingly, I was thinking this morning, so 8 weeks. Believe it or not, today being the 25th of October, it's exactly 2 months today to Christmas Day. So I thought, well guys, we're going into the busiest period of the year, and if you started this today, then by Christmas Day, you can experience, so this research was done by the Massachusetts General Hospital. What they put their staff through was an 8-week mindfulness practice, and found that there was great levels of decreased anxiety, so that's that immediate effect that I was talking to you about, and it also produced growth in the areas of the brain, which is in the prefrontal cortex, the front part of our brain, where we have our sense of that self-regulation, our memory and so on. So in just 8 weeks, so if you started today, by Christmas time, you could have this greater sense of calm, and literally this greater ability for self-regulation, to think, to retain memory, just by sitting, in this case it was 20 minutes a day. I know 20 minutes is like, my life's so busy, but it's not really that long. We can find 20 minutes if we choose to make it a priority. So this is what happened after that 8 weeks. So within our region of our brain called the limbic system, which is our emotional centre, there's a little thing called the amygdala. Who's heard of the amygdala? Oh yeah, you guys are really good. I don't know what you're doing in this room, you know this stuff. So the amygdala is our fight and flight response, yeah? So when we feel that adrenaline, that sense of anxiety, so that was dialed right back in these 8 weeks. As was that connection with that awareness and concentration and decision making literally became thicker in our brain. So there were changes to the actual neural structures in our brain. It's not just that we feel something, we're actually making some permanent change. So you can do that. It's just not that long, 8 weeks. You'll get benefits day one, but you'll get those really big benefits within 8 weeks. Jane mentioned earlier, your IQ levels will also rise. The research will tell us about 23%. That's a fair bit. Also our happiness set point. So we tend to have this level of happiness that each of us have. We all have a different set point, but let's say if your set point is here and good things happen, you might you have a lovely picnic with your family and it's really joyous and lots of laughter and your happiness level goes up a little bit, and then sometime afterwards you're going to come back down to the same level. And then bad stuff might happen and the car breaks down and the dog's injured and the children are screaming and your happiness levels go down a little bit, but will eventually edge back up. We come back generally to this happiness set point that we have a genetic predisposition to have. And interestingly, if you look at extremes, they followed this to people that won cross lotto, like significant sums of money. Their happiness levels absolutely went up because suddenly they had the freedom to take that holiday they've always wanted and buy that car they wanted. They go, woo, life's great. But you know what happens? After, it's not weeks, but it depends on how big and how long, but it can even be a year or two, but eventually we come back to the same happiness set point that we had before. But the same thing happens if really, so they did a similar study, followed people that became paraplegics. Now I can only begin to imagine how confronting that must be in your life. And their happiness went right down, understandably. But you know what? After time, they came back to the same happiness set point. Now what happens as we practice mindfulness meditation is we can actually raise that happiness set point level. So whatever we return to is a higher point than we currently have today.
So just with those two studies, they were for an hour a day of mindfulness.
Oh, thank you for mentioning that, yes. So an hour a day. So, with that bit of background information around what can happen within our brain, those IQ shifts, the happiness set point, getting that stress levels down, our thinking levels up. Any reflections, thoughts, comments, observations? Thank you.
What about the benefits if you're a bit of an intermittent mindfulness person, like you've done
Aren't we all? Yeah.
like you don't quite get the regular routine going, is that still beneficial?
Yeah, really good question, and I get asked that a lot. Yes is the short answer. Yeah, anything is better than nothing, and 1 minute is better than no minutes, and once a week is better than no times a week. But I tend to think of it, the closest analogy or the way I look at it, is it's a little bit like either eating well or exercising. That if you eat really well 2 days a week and not so well 5 days, it's still better for your health than eating crap 7 days. But it's nowhere near as good for your health as eating well every day. So think of it like that. It's the more often you do it, the better, and we'll have some bits at the end, tips around how can you get this into being more of a habit. So we'll cover that off. But definitely some is better than none, more is better than less. Does that answer your question? Thanks. Any other questions?
I've found it creates a feeling that I can go back to. So like I'm in leadership and I used to find it really stressful to get to sleep at night because I'd have everything going through my mind. Oh, this happened today, that happened tomorrow. And now I find if I just practice the mindfulness, just lying in my bed, focusing on the breath, straight away I'll go to sleep because just the feeling of my body calming down during that. And so when I've got panic moments going on at work or anything, if I can just get away for that 2 minutes, go into a quiet room, just settle myself, then I can be far more effective.
There is a piece of golden advice for the room. Thank you so much for sharing that. Absolutely. What happens is over time, when we practice mindfulness or being mindfully present or mindfulness meditation, is that we learn to associate that our breath becomes our anchor. It's our gentle place that no matter what turmoil is going on out there, because we can't control that, we always have the gentleness of our breath. And the more you practice it, the more your mind is really aware, oh, this is my calm place. And you know what? You've got your breath wherever you are. It's not something you have to remember to take. So yes, when you're in those situations, when you've practiced it, then you can know with confidence, heck, I'm feeling everything's chaos right now, I'm feeling really stressed, but that's right. Breath is my anchor. I'm just going to take a moment to come back to that. But thank you for sharing that. Really important lesson, yes.
You're speaking about making mindfulness a habit, essentially. Is there any evidence around, like this lady saying when you're going to sleep, practicing it at the same time every day?
Absolutely. So anything we want to form as a habit, we want to do at the same time each day. So it doesn't actually matter what time of the day you do your mindfulness meditation. And just so you know, the science shows that 10 minutes a day is enough to start getting these benefits. Now, more than 10 minutes continues to be more beneficial, but it definitely doesn't have to be an hour every day. And I think that even for the busiest people, it's hard to argue, I can't find 10 minutes. Then when you find that 10 minutes, some of my clients say, I love it to do it first thing in the morning. I sit up in bed, I do my mindfulness meditation, I feel it centers me for the day. Other people like to do it last thing at night before I go to sleep, because then I calm my brain and I sleep more deeply. I practice both, and that's what I usually suggest you do. Play around with it. I mean, if lunchtime's your thing, that's the only moment, do it at lunchtime. Play around with when it works best for you, and once you've found that time, stick with it. Because let me ask you, when you go to bed at night, do you stop to think, now before I go to bed, what are the things that I do? That's right, I have to brush my teeth. Yes, I'll remember to brush my teeth. We don't. You start going to bed and you automatically walk into the bathroom and get your toothbrush out, I hope. Because that's now a habit. You don't even have to remember, you just carry that out. So if you stick to doing your mindfulness meditation, so I've been doing it now for about 4 years, and after playing with it just in the early days, I do it before I do it, like last thing at night when I'm sitting in bed, sitting up. But I don't any longer have to remember, what is it that I do? You know, I just know when I get into bed, I'm automatically pulling my pillow up when I'm going to sit, because it's now my habit. So yes, same time is good. Any other questions here?
While there are obvious benefits around mindfulness and having a self-discipline around doing this, there seems to be a trend over the last few years where organisations try to mandate wellness or happiness. To me, that would seem counterproductive, because then it just becomes another obligation that you've got to do.
Yeah, it's a really valid point. So it depends on the perspective with which you look at it. Nobody likes having something enforced on them that they don't particularly want to do. If we're working with workplaces, what we'll usually recommend is, it's great to offer a whole range of wellness and well-being opportunities in the workplace, on which one of them might be a mindfulness room or space that's a quiet space where if you choose to do a mindfulness practice, you've got a space to go to. But to tell all staff you have to go there and do it, if you're going in with the wrong mindset, like, oh, they're making me do this and I don't really want to do it, it's not going to be very effective anyway. But if you had that and you had a gratitude wall where you encourage people to stick up things that they're grateful for, and you started meetings with going around the table asking people what's gone well today, those kind of practices that there's all sorts of different places to bring in well-being, but they're optional for you to take that considered choice, then yes, it's more likely to be helpful for you. Does that answer your question? Probably need to keep moving on, but they're great questions. Thanks for your participation. Oh, it's over to you, isn't it, Jane? Am I heading back to you now? Yes. Sorry. That's it. The last bit. Heading back to Jane.
Is that kicking?
Not on and off.
So we're going to look at mindful eating, and I'm going to ask you a few questions just as we move into this bit, to just see if this might be something that might work for you. So let's think about, do you ever happen to eat so quickly that you don't taste what you're eating? Does that ever happen? Yes? A few nods there. At a party when there's lots of good food, do you ever indulge in the cheese platter or the chips or the nice nibbles that are there? Do you ever not recognise that you're actually feeling hungry or full? Do you ever notice your thoughts wander when you're eating? Do Do you notice the flavours and the textures when you're eating? When you eat a big meal, do you notice if it makes you feel heavy or sluggish? When you feel bored, do you ever eat to feel better? Do you ever take a moment to appreciate the colours and the smells and look at the food that's been prepared for you? I know that in my house I have this thing that's made with love, because sometimes I don't and I forget to, I'm just making tea. But if I say it's made with love, I want them to look at it, I want them to have it, taste it, and I want them to be a bit more mindful in their eating. So that's something that's coming to our family. When you're feeling stressed at work, do you go and find something to eat? Is it something you do when you procrastinate? Where does the relationship with food, and is it perhaps something that you could start to pepper in some mindfulness within your day? Now we've got one of my favourite little activities that we're going to do at the moment, and we're going to do some mindful eating in practice. Now you can do this if ever you'd like to do this with your work colleagues. I've got chocolates for you because they kick in a bit of positive emotion as well. So you can take one and pass it along. And interesting, I don't know about you, but if you get a box of chocolates, how long does it take to eat? I've got two children, one at Easter time, devours her Easter eggs just like that, and the other one has them last throughout, and she just has a nibble and has a nibble and has a nibble, has a nibble. So what we're going to do, and I'll do it with you, because then I can talk you through it even better. Oh, I haven't got any in my hand. So sometimes people do this with raisins, or they only do it with berries. But before you hop into this, first of all, I would like you to have a look at your wrapper. How the ends of it nice and tight. Feel the noises that it makes before you unwrap it. Just give it a little bit of a squeeze. Is the label all nice and neat? Then I'm going to get you to unwrap it slowly. Listen to the noises. There you go. Just sort of poke it out. Listen to that lovely crisping. Have a smell. Look at how your chocolate is nice and evenly patterned. Look at the pattern underneath. Oh, it's got a wonderful one almost embedded on the bottom. I think that's a sign. Is it even? Is it deformed? Do you think all of them look just like that one? Then what I'd like you to do is just slowly take a little nibble on the end. Feel it on your tongue, on the roof of your mouth. Where does it stick? How sweet is it? Quite often in foods, if we eat real quickly, we don't notice the sweetness or the textures and the feel on our tongue.
What memories does it evoke?
What memories does it evoke?
The English galaxy.
Can you feel any difference as you move through the eating process and the texture that comes through? Can you feel, I've got Snickers and take some nuts? The nougat. The sense of chewing. So if we think about what we eat, how would we really experience something? The sensations that we have. If we eat it more mindfully, would we have bigger portion size? Would we have a smaller portion size, I should say? Would we notice when we're feeling full? Would we notice the flavours? Would food be more enjoyable for us? I'm going to get you to continue to eat your chocolate. If you ate more mindfully, would you eat less at a bowl of chocolate? you think about desserts at dinner time. If you had them mindfully, would it be different? But just in food in general, our relationship with food as I even can't feel I can't eat it all now because did anyone else have that sensation? No.
That was the eating So, did anybody save their whole chocolate for later? No. Yeah.
That's very good self-regulation. Any thoughts on that experience of eating it? Did anyone reflect, wow, that was quite an amazing chocolate?
I feel more satisfied after just having one.
Yes, exactly right.
It tasted fast sweeter.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes we don't realise how sweet things are. We have way too much sugar in our diet. So if we really taste it, what is the sensations that we have? Yes.
I think I just noticed how artificially sweet the chocolate is.
Yes, right. Yes.
I had a Snickers, and I didn't like the texture at the end. You keep it in your mouth for a while.
Yes.
I didn't like the texture.
Yes.
It's a bit more coarse.
Yes.
Because before, you just guts me down. And you notice that.
Yeah.
I don't like them.
I'm sorry to take the stickers out of the but there'll be other ones each lot of you. I think this is it, when you get the hero. Lovely. Any other thoughts on that? So can you imagine if you brought something into your family, your homes on mindful eating, that may help to bring mindfulness into your day-to-day. I want you this week, this is your homework for this little activity, I want you to see if you can take 3 mindful bites at each meal. If you start by starting with 3 mindful bites to really experience the flavours, the colours, to have that sensation, it brings you back to being very present. So that's one way you can bring it into your day-to-day. Mindfulness at work. Thank you. I get the fun bits of eating chocolate.
So, to the point of the earlier question, so how, with the habits and how do we bring this in, we thought we'd also cover off some ideas of how you can bring this into your workplace, bring it into your life, so it becomes a habit and part of what you do. So first of all, it really helps just to actually set your intention to be present. If you haven't experienced this a lot, I really recommend you don't just leap into, now I'm going to change my whole day and I'm going to be mindfully present. Which, by the way, I will state the obvious. We're not advocating that you're never ever thinking ahead or reflecting on the past, because they're really important things to do. But generally, when we think ahead, it's usually with anxiety. It's usually something we're worrying about. So I encourage you in thinking ahead, use it for good, where Jane talked earlier about for strategizing, for planning, for goal setting. Those positive planning ahead are really important. In fact, Professor Martin Seligman, who's kind of considered like the father of positive psychology, he's literally proposing to the science community, he's written a book, the last released book, to change the name of our species from Homo sapien to Homo prospectus, because he says prospecting, or our ability to plan ahead, is in fact the only thing that differentiates our species. So don't not think ahead, but do it in that healthy sense. Same with reflection. You know, for most of us, we spend time in the past going over and over and ruminating on something that wasn't good. I wish I could change that, or why did they do this, or this wasn't fair, or that's not healthy or helpful. But it is good to reflect when something's gone not so well, perhaps, to say, what would I do differently next time? What perhaps was my contribution to that thing happening? So those kind of reflections are good. So we can spend some time in the past, some time in the future, but we equally want to spend time in the present moment, more time than we do right now. So set your intention to do that, but don't leap into being there, almost going to be present all the time, because it's too much to leap straight in. Just start with something small. So you might, in your handout, there's a space where you can write if you want to, but you might want to start with just setting one intention. Today, I will become aware of the first 3 bites of my food. And practice by placing my attention on that. Or today, I'm going to be really mindfully present in the conversations I have at lunchtime. Today I'm going to be really mindfully present of when I'm on the phone. I'm not going to also, say you're on your work phone, I'm not going to be scanning my eyes around other things on my desk and looking, I'm not going to stay fully present on that phone call. Whatever it is, set an intention for one thing, starting with that, and practice it. See what it feels like. It's a skill, right? Think of this as a skill. You won't just do it perfectly, and that's okay. Try not to judge yourself. Just have a go, and know that each time you do it, it gets easier and easier. Think about that first time, if you can. For me, it was an awfully long time ago, but when you first started driving a car, or if like me now, I've got 3 of my children, I've had to witness it again. Do you remember, if you do drive a car, how unbelievably difficult that was? And you had to absolutely focus on everything. You had to think through every single step. I need to put my seatbelt on, then I need to move the mirror, and then I need to, in my case, put it into neutral. We used to have gears a lot more in those days. And so on. You have to think through. Now, I just jump in the car, I'm chatting to someone, I'm singing a song, I'm doing it on automatic pilot. Think about between there and there was because I kept getting back in the car, and back in the car, and back in the car. Even though it was effort-filled in the beginning, I built that new neural pathway in my brain for driving a car. So now that pathway is really strong pathway in my brain, because I've driven for so many times, that now I can just go down that neural pathway without any effort or thinking. So perhaps consider your mindfulness a little like that. Hopefully it won't be as effort-filled as driving a car, but you won't just get in and do it. Just start slowly and build those pathways. I know that you know this, we keep being told this. So much science and evidence around the fact that when we try and multitask, in fact we're far, far less productive than when we focus on one thing and stay really present with that one thing and complete it and then move on to the next. We'll be more accurate, more productive and faster doing one task at a time. So really try your hardest not to multitask. Which one of those is you, that picture? If I find this practice really helpful, particularly when I was starting out, is that because again of our brain's negativity bias, how many times do we wake up and the moment the alarm goes off, our first thoughts are like, oh God, it's only Wednesday. I've still got 2 more days to go after this to a weekend. Oh, look, it's nowhere near as warm out there as I hoped it would be. And all those things on my desk, and I can already hear the kids fighting. And we wake up and go straight into what's wrong, right? Know that that's within your control. So set your intention. Wake up and be intentional about having a good day. Hunt for what's good in today. Hunt for, and then decide what's the one thing you're going to do mindfully today before you even get out of bed. I'm going to be really mindfully present with my children when they're talking to me, or whatever your one thing is today, but do it before you even get up. You can bring it in. This is one of the easiest ways to start. Things that you're already doing. So when you're washing your hands after you've been to the toilet, hopefully, when you're like dialing either your work desk phone or even your mobile phone, be fully present doing that. It really sounds bizarre, but you're not adding any more time in, but you're bringing yourself to be fully present. But if you get to a meeting and you're sitting there and you're waiting for the meeting to start, take a few mindful breaths and bring yourself into this present moment. Why? Because what happens is we constantly have somatic feelings wave through our bodies all the time. We have clues all the time as to whether we're feeling happy or sad, good or bad, whether what we're about to do is serving us well or not. But because we're so busy in our head, thinking ahead or thinking behind, we fail to notice those clues. that are right there all the time. And if we want to change up something, if we want to change a habit that's not serving us well, we need to know what urges are driving us. So when we can just remember to take moments to come back to this moment and notice, what am I really feeling right now? What are the thoughts? What are the feelings? Where am I feeling it? You start to build a really great understanding of yourself, which is the starting place for change. Because if we don't know that's going on, how do we change it? Particularly in relationships when we're talking, maybe you could start there and just make a decision to think about, how am I being right now in this conversation? Am I actually really present with you? We spend so much time worrying ahead about what our response is going to be. You know when someone's talking to you and you're already building up this, I don't agree with that, and why would you say that? And I go, and you're building up, you're almost just like waiting for them to stop so you can put forward what you want to say. That's not being mindfully present nor really respectful of valuing that person's opinion. When we can just be present enough to go to suspend that judgment, and to be open to, I'm not seeing it your way, but maybe I can learn something by just suspending my thoughts and opening up to this other opinion, other way of seeing something. How much richer our lives would be. And interestingly, some clients will often say to me, particularly in a workspace, where they say, well, if I talk to them about this, about just being present, don't try and think about an answer, just stay wholly with that person. And then they'll often say, but when they stop talking, I don't know how to respond because I haven't prepared it. Does that make sense? You kind of feel like that, well, what am I going to say? A little technique that works really well is if you've stayed fully present, you know what they've said. If you paraphrase back to them to begin with, you say, so what I'm hearing you say is, and just chop it down, synthesize down what they say. So what I'm hearing you say is, that was pretty frustrating in the lunchroom when there wasn't any milk available. Even though they spent 10 minutes going, oh, this workplace just doesn't do this, and they don't support me. If you can, but once you've synthesized it down and articulated it back to them, that in fact gives your brain that the next response is coming. It's much easier to know then what you're going to naturally say. Does that make sense? Try it. Practice it at home where it's safer first. It's very liberating and empowering. Body language, I mean, just what do you think, I don't know, because this is just a stock sort of shot, but what do you think is going on in this photo? What do you think the guy on your right is thinking as the guy on the left is talking?
It's pretty barrier.
Yeah, there's definitely a barrier there, isn't there?
Close body language.
Sorry, is that again?
It's a close body language.
A close body language. Yeah. So again, if you're mindfully present enough, if you realise if your body is doing that, your mind is shutting it out too. If we want to remain open-minded, so does our body need to be. Now, two things are going on here. His mind is thinking, I'm not really buying into your story, but his mind is thinking, he's not really buying into my story. He's reading off that as well. So just be aware of just if you're present enough, notice, what are you doing with your body right now? Are you making eye contact? Are you giving the little nods? Are you showing the person that you're engaged? Or are you really kind of drifting? Are you glancing at your phone because the message just came in? How tempting is that, right? When you see it? If I in my head, I'm going, don't look down, I know that, oh God, I looked. Very, very hard. But think about your body language. What's your own actual language? Think about, I know that's a cartoon. Who's going to win that fight? Blue trunks. Because what we think and what we say is how we become. It's who we are. We can only become what we believe and say to ourselves. So start to notice that. So when we're present enough in the moment, we can notice, oh, well, if I'm thinking he's going to kill me, what other possible outcome is there? So notice what words you're saying to yourself. Are you already defeated before you start that project? Are you already... My daughter yesterday, she's 25, she's just come home from travelling, She's back in my world and she's just gorgeous and larger than life. She came bursting in the house yesterday and I heard her, I was upstairs, she's downstairs, and I called out, hi, hon, and I heard her, hi, mum. Oh gosh, something's not right. She comes upstairs and she's crying. I'm like, oh, what's the matter? Her ex-boyfriend, which is why she's no longer overseas and back home, had said something in a Facebook group that she says to me, I know he wrote that, it's about, his comment was about meeting up with another girl, that I can't wait to meet this girl. And she's like, he deliberately did that just to make me feel bad. He knew I was going to read it. It's the only reason he put that up. How else is she going to feel about that situation while that's her belief? Now, that may be the reason he did it, but heck, it may not. They're not together anymore. He can see another girl. Her own thoughts created a bigger misery that perhaps needed to happen because of her assumptions. Our assumptions are always magnified to the negative, so just be aware of that. But also because of the words and stories she was telling herself. So think about your words, your stories. Are you helping yourself? I'm not talking about lying to yourself or tricking yourself. I'm not saying that she should have come in and gone, I don't care at all who he sees, blah, 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 because she does care. So you don't want to, it's not about lying to yourself, but it's about choosing a more empowered perspective. Did he really is that the only reason he wrote that? You're 100% sure he wrote that to upset you? Well, no, not 100% sure. How is holding on to that thought serving you well? It's not making you feel lousy. How would you be right now if you could let go of that thought? I'd probably feel a bit happier. I hate having a life coach as a mom. So there you go. Just think about your thoughts. So here's some reminders. How can you remember? Because it's not a habit, right? You're going to forget. You'll probably, hopefully, some of you right now thinking, yeah, I wouldn't mind trying this. But what will happen is you'll go back out into your normal day and you'll forget. I'm a sprinter. I do a lot of competition, and I've got a sore glute thing happening at the moment. The physio's given me this exercise to do where my husband has to kind of lie on the bed and he has to sort of stretch my leg backwards. It's a really awkward position. He has to stretch my leg and pull that glute. And I went back to the physio yesterday and he said, how are you going with those stretches? And I go, oh gosh, I forgot all about them because it wasn't a habit. I fully meant to do it. When I left the physio, I'm like, cool, I've got an exercise that can fix this. I did it for about the first 3 days. I just completely forgot. It was no bad intention. I just wasn't a habit yet. So despite however hopeful you might be today, there's every chance when you leave you forget. So try these things. You could set an alarm on your phone. When I was starting out, I set one hourly. On days where you can. You might not be able to every day or in the workplace, but when I had a day where I knew I could, I had the phone just remind me every hour it would go off. And when the phone went off, that meant just stop in this moment and just notice. Take a few breaths, close your eyes. What am I thinking right now? What am I feeling right now? And I think if you're anything like most of us, you'll be surprised how much time we spend in a negative space. You could use what we call when-then statements to start to anchor this to something that you already know you're doing to help you remember. So you could say it's that brushing the teeth thing. You know you're going to brush your teeth, so you could say a when-then statement would be, when I brush my teeth, then I'm going to do my mindfulness meditation. So you're anchoring it to something that you're not forgetting. So with my physio exercise, if I was smarter, I could have said, when I've brushed my teeth, then I'll ask my husband to stretch my leg. Because you don't forget to brush your teeth, and then you go, oh, that's right, and then I'm going to do that. So you could use a when I turn on my computer, then I'm just going to shut my eyes and take a few breaths and set an intention for the day. So a when-then statement. Of course, the old post-it note, you could stick some up to remind yourself. You could associate it with mealtime. When for my meals, those first 3 mouthfuls, I'm going to eat them mindfully. You could say between tasks, as soon as I finish one task, I'm not going to launch straight into the next one. I'm going to take a moment to recenter. And when I say take a moment, we're talking like 1 minute. So if you try it, who's tried doing that? So just taking a few mindful breaths before moving on. Yeah. What do you notice?
Most of the time you can actually relax your body, which relaxes your mind, gives you clarity.
It's perfectly said. It relaxes your body, which relaxes your mind, which gives you clarity. You often find you suddenly have access to insights that were eluding you a couple of minutes before because you were really stressed and trying to go, come on, what is that? What is it? If you're really stressed and you can't find the words that you're after or the solution that you're looking for, try stopping for a minute. Even though that those times are the times where you swear you don't have a minute to stop, they're the most important times to stop. You'll benefit from it. I use sometimes, I've got a bracelet actually that I wear. I only wear it when I'm trying to set a new intention, so it's not a bracelet that I wear every day. So when I've got this bracelet on, I notice it because it's not one I wear all the time. So each time I see, if I go to type something and I notice that bracelet, that's my cue to go, oh yes, bracelet, because I'm doing this, and it just reminds I'm stopping now and taking a breath. I'm stopping now and noticing. Or some people use a rubber band. If you don't want to wear a bracelet, just put a rubber band around your wrist. And each time you see it, because you don't normally have a rubber band on your wrist, you go, oh yes, what am I feeling? What am I thinking right now? So you can try that. We talked about the post-it notes. So we're going to now do a body scan exercise. Who's done a mindfulness body scan? A few less. Okay. So again, just before we start, if you can just get yourself back into that comfortable position. So feet grounded, hands on your lap, a nice straight but relaxed back. And this one, there's a video that will talk you through what to do.
Welcome to the body and practice. Take a moment to sit or lie down as we get into your back.
Sorry, no, I was going to get the volume up.
Welcome to the body and practice. Take a moment to either sit.
Just before we start that, can everybody hear that? Just just one other, yeah. Oh, no, that's
In case of an emergency, I've got a written one, so I will read you through this one. So, sorry about that. If you can get back into your comfortable position, back straight, feet on the ground, and just slowly bringing your attention into your body. You can notice your body seated, wherever you're currently seated, just feeling the weight of your body on the chair, the weight of your feet on the floor. Think about where you have contact with the chair. Just take a few gentle, deeper breaths. As you take a deep breath, bring in more oxygen, just enlivens the body. And as you exhale, have a sense of relaxing more deeply. Just 3 deep breaths, relaxing deeply with each exhale. You can notice your feet on the floor. Notice the sensations of your feet touching the floor. The weight, the pressure, the heat, space between your toes. You can notice your legs against the chair, the pressure, the pulsing, the heaviness or lightness Prop your legs against the chair. Notice your back against the chair. Bring your attention to your stomach area. Is your stomach tense or tight? If you can, let it soften. Notice your hands. Are your hands tense? Tight? See if you can allow your hands to soften. Notice your arms. Feeling into any sensation in your arms. Let your shoulders be soft. Now notice your neck and throat. Let your neck and throat be soft. Relax. Soften your jaw. Gently let your face and facial muscles be soft. Now notice your whole body present. Gently breathing while being present with your whole body. Be aware of your whole body. And when you're ready, you can slowly come back to the room and open your eyes. How did you find that? Any thoughts? Relaxing? Anyone surprised with tension they felt somewhere that didn't realise that tension was sitting there? Yeah. It'll be fun. So that's really starting to wrap up. Jane will cover off the last bit. So it's the last bit for my session. I just want to personally thank you for your participation, which has been amazing.
I love this quote. I was so excited when I found this. You should sit in meditation for 20 minutes a day. Unless you are too busy, then you should sit for an hour. And I think that sometimes when we are at our busiest, where we take those mindful moments that really have an impact for us. That is really the conclusion of our session today. It is a short session, but I do hope you have enjoyed it. Before you go, it would be really lovely to think about how you bring mindfulness into your world and perhaps set an intention for this afternoon if you're going back to work or staying for the rest of the day, perhaps to think about what the intention may look like. Certainly I know after my morning, when I did go to give my daughter her lunch on a plate after I've already given her breakfast, I did think that my mindful intention for tomorrow will be to be fully present at home. So sometimes I practice for the next day my intention. I know what it is from this day. So that may be a tip for you as well. But thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you really enjoyed the session. Can we also give Stephanie a thank you, Steph? That was fantastic. I love hearing that. Before I leave as well, I have put some safe word special offers for participants that come to our sessions. We already have one other session up on our website. So if you choose to, one is actually a mindfulness session at a reduced rate with Stephanie as well for the workplace if that interests you. Thank you very much.